privilege of being the current chairman at DOCRRA, and this is our 22nd AGM, can you believe that? We've only been involved, I think most of us, Deon, Richard's probably been involved longest, and Ken Lever, our former chairman, which we've got here. So Ken, lovely to see you, and a big welcome. Thank you. So 22 years the organization's been going on. It's been well established, and I dare say at the moment we are probably as strong as it's ever been. So a big welcome to all of you, to the members that are here. Even if there are a few non-members, we're very grateful that you've made the time to be here. As I said, everything is on the website. There are hard copies here as well. If you don't mind putting your cell phones on silent mode, it'll be great. That agenda looks very intimidating, but the first 6 points is going to take us 10 minutes, maybe 12. So we have to get through the first stuff, and then we can get to the more meaty stuff and the more important stuff. So also to my committee and everybody that's organized this evening, thank you very much. The whole committee is here, so I'm delighted about that. Any difficult questions, we can defer to them. So thank you for being here. And without further wasting time, let's get that done. So firstly, apologies. We want to record a number of apologies. Our two councillors, Tammy Cooley and Privy, were desperate to be here, and they sent their apologies, so they couldn't make it. I think there was a last-minute council meeting. Then Lynette and Denise Besaidnout, Janet Stanway, Tim and Jennifer Bamber, and Lisa Armstrong. Those are the apologies. Any other apologies from the audience? We received those apologies. So, and as I said, a special welcome to Ken, who's here. Our quorum is 10 people, 10 members 10 members in total, 5 in person. We're way over a quorum, so delighted to have all of you here. And then we've also, maybe we must just do the proxies, quickly record the different proxies. I have a bunch of them from 2 estates, 22 votes. We have Tony here from Caledon. You qualify for 100 votes. Okay, all votes are 182. Mike Wilson from Brooklyn, also 20 votes. Deon Richards has got the proxy from Zambiti, so that's 100. From the Oval, Martin is here, 27 votes. And from Brentwood, John Ray, the new general manager. How many days have you been in the job? 4. 21 already. I just met you the other day, so he's got 100 votes as well. So in total, we've got 369 votes. Also, before we carry on with the business, just a very big thank you to Zambiti, who are always very generous to give us venues for meetings and support us in many different ways. And they were one of our founding members 5-6 years ago when we all together got going with DOCRRA again. Also, just at the outset, we're delighted to see in this week that we were the runner-up organization for the Best of Belito voting that took place in the Upliftment organization. So we came second to the flag farm, and I'm comfortable coming second to the flag farm. So as a Upliftment organization, so we're delighted, firstly grateful that we got nominated, and secondly that we got recognized. And there was 17 in that specific category, so it wasn't that there was just the 2 of us. The next one is logistics. I think everybody knows where the loo is, and cell phones are off, and all of that kind of thing. And I did say that there are stuff that you can, paper, you can get everything in paper form as well. Apologies we've gone through, proxies we've gone through, and a quorum we have. So we are duly constituted. Approval of our minutes, they were circulated, they were also available on the website. I know that Stephanie and I've gone through them about 14 times, see if we can get spelling errors. I'm sure there is still one. but I'm trusting that everybody managed to go through them. If you had a concern, anybody that was here last year that's gone through the minutes and comfortable to propose that we accept the minutes as a true reflection of our meeting that we had last year. I need a hand. Ken, thank you very much. Seconder? Thank you, Penny. Anybody against? Motion carried. I told you we'll go quick. Acceptance of the Chairman's report. I just have a few highlights. Chairman's report, same story. We spent quite a bit of time going through it and writing it up. It's always interesting to try and look back a year ago, because you always want to sneak in stuff that's happening currently, but you can't do that. So this is a report of our financial year that ended on end of February this year. We did it, this time we did it under headings. So those of you that have gone through it, you will see there's a heading under property evaluations. We have got a paragraph, a roads and traffic plan we were busy with. Ken, thank you very much for the Gate Estuary meetings that you attended. Then we had the July insurrections. How can we forget that? And everything that happened around that. Flip, thank you for all your service at GBOC during that time, and thanks for GBOC keeping us safe. We are going to thank them a bit later again. Then we had Siza Water and the whole gedunta about the possible 40% increases in the court cases that they lost, and Stephan's going to talk briefly about that. Municipal Public Accounts Committee, EMPAC has become a major platform where we can really shake things up a bit, and Brian will be able to report on that. But we started with that last year. If any of you look at the annual report of Dukuza Municipality, you'll see the last 3 pages of the 400 pages is us. Integrated Development Plan, IDP. Last year we got approval that we will be sitting on the IDP Representative Forum, and we're really looking forward to that. Then we had the municipal elections, and that was a gedunta. So there's a big difference in the council at the moment, and I'll touch on that a bit later, with a change of changing balance of power that we see there. KDM performance, or lack thereof, KDM financial processes and reports. There's a heading, the annual reports. We touched on those for last year. Then we did an article about the good, the bad, and the ugly. The ugly one is quite big. Then we had a whistleblower last year, which gave us some valuable information, which Brian then shared with the Auditor General, and we're pleased to report that there was some action taken. And then our partners and alliances, just reading the headings for you. DOCRRA Communications, we'll touch on that again now. Membership, we had a great membership growth last year. You'll see it in our finances. DOCRRA finances are in good shape. Delighted that we have a full set of committee members with various subcommittees, and we will introduce them to you later. Our DOCRRA benefits card, I think it started the year before us. It didn't start last year. And then our Dolphin Coast Outreach Initiative, which is our charity initiative. So that's it. That's the Chairman's report. It's 4 or 5 pages. It's available. Can I ask for a proposer and a seconder that we can accept the Chairman's report for the previous financial year? Donkey Flip for proposing. Gabby, thank you for seconding. Motion carried. Anybody against? Then the motion is carried. DOCRRA financial statements for last year. I'm just giving you the highlights. The full set of finances are here. Our treasurer is here, so we can go through all the details if you want. Our income climbed very nicely, Deon, I think by a good 150,000, I think, from the year before. So our total income for the year was just under 500,000 Rand. Our total expenditure climbed not as much from the previous year, only by about 60,000, so that got to 296,000. And that's largely our office and some legal expenses and some hosting of web expenses and things like that. So we don't have a big asset base or a big overhead cost at all. So we made a surplus of just under 200,000. If we add that to the 300-odd thousand that we had the year before, I think we're now sitting on a reserve of around 540,000. It may sound like a lot of money, but if we ever had to go to litigation, which has come close twice now, that we have to go, then that's 500,000 if you're going to fight a big court case with the municipality. Hopefully we don't have to. And I've got some breaking news at the end of this presentation, which is going to save us a lot of legal expenses. So that's our financials. Deon, anything else that you would like to comment on our finances? They're in good shape, they're within budget.
Certainly from a historical perspective, they are.
Sorry, thank you. This year our income will be potentially a little stressed. We have had some confusion with one estate, but we do have a couple of others sort of in the pipeline that may make up the difference. Those numbers will be a little bit different, but our cost line should be more or less the same. So there will still be a surplus this year.
I think I'll show the budget. Yeah, thanks. Some good news. That estate that you're referring to is all confirmed today. So we sorted again. That's our budget for next year. You can see Deon was a bit conservative and providing for a bit of a lower income. We're very pleased that this year we had a zero increase on our membership fees. So we kept our membership fees flat, didn't increase it. Over the last few years we had to increase them to get in line. Our expenditure is going up a bit because we have now embarked on a very strong social media campaign. Hopefully you've noticed over the last few months that 2-3 blogs a week and a lot of activity on the social media platforms from DOCRRA, and we're very delighted about that. So looking at a surplus of 78,000, which will then take us to around 600,000. My target was around 700 because that's what I heard a legal case would cost. So we're still working our way up to that amount of money if we did need that. Okay, that's it. So I'd like to just quickly introduce the whole committee as well. Sorry, Don. Oh yeah, true. We need to approve these sets of finances. So we need a proposer and a seconder. Thank you, Trevor. Seconded, Donkey Flip. Okay, motion carried. Annual financial statements accepted. I've got a signed copy, Deon, and I know you've signed one, but maybe we must sign the same one and then work better. And then we can put them in the files. Okay, super. Thank you very much. So that's the formal side of the business done. Just a quick introduction of our committee as I can see them. Quickly, we've got Flip Helberg, who's been around for many years. Thank you, Flip, and who's also served as our vice chair for the last 2 years. Trevor Greyling, who was co-opted recently onto our committee. We caught him with a slop rim, and we're delighted to have Trevor. Don Forbes, who is our wise owl and keeps us on the straight and narrow and gives us good advice. Hans, who also serves on the Ballito Neighborhood, Assault Rock Neighborhood Watch, so delighted on the safety and security side. Penny, who has been a feature of DOCRRA for many years and I think is well known to everybody. Gabby, who's been on the committee for 1 or 2 years, makes a lot of noise. You think that she's been there for a few years already. So Gabby, lovely to have you. Vanessa, who looks after all our audio visual and makes me stand in the sun and the camera facing me and do strange stuff. So Vanessa, thank you very much. Then we have Deon Richards, our treasurer, who's also been on the committee for a long time. A new member on our committee is Stephan Marais, who joined us this year, and he's going to say a few words a bit later. And then Brian Burtis, who's also been on the committee for two or 3 years and has really stirred up the municipality on the finance side, so we'll be reporting on that as well. And then Stephanie, that keeps us all together. She's our executive officer, keeping us going. And then our newest member is Ruth, sitting over there, Volker, and Ruth looks after our social media activities. I think that's everybody, and I've recognized, oh, Mary right at the back, Mary Kassam, that also does a lot of our writing for us. So that is the total committee. Can't blame me for not seeing you farther in the back. Ladies and gents, to my committee, let me say now already a very big thank you. We've got a strong committee with a full range of expertise. Over and above our committee, we also have an advisory group that are specialists in their specific fields that supports us. Ken Lever, our past chairman, being one of them. So Ken, thank you for that. Okay, just to highlight quickly, we don't do this alone. We have to rely a lot on various partners. So this year, a new organization that invited me to come and give an address is ARC, which stands for the Association of Residential Communities. It's a national organization, and they gather managers of residential communities, managers and chairpersons, and they discuss issues concerning estates. So we're delighted to now be a lot more involved with the Association of Residential Communities as well. Since Brian has joined us, he happened to be working with the Auditor General that many years back that's representing or is responsible for Dukuza, and we now have a hotline to the Auditor General, and we use it wisely and professionally, but it's been a great help to have a direct communication and contact with the partner that's involved with Dukuza, and hopefully we're having a coffee with him next week sometime, I think. Belito Urban Improvement Precinct, I know Brian Wright very well. I helped him establish the urban improvement precincts in Umhlanga and in Florida in my previous life when I was working. So we have a good working relationship with the Belito Urban Improvement Precinct. I think they have two divisions. They have one on the boardwalk in Belito, and then they have one in the village where they look after business. Belito Neighborhood Watch, which means that we don't have to duplicate that initiative, and as I mentioned, Hans is on the Belito Neighborhood Watch, and we're very pleased. I met the chairperson this evening, Marais, so we cooperate with them very closely. Sorry, sir. Salt Rock, sorry. Salt Rock. Belito's Flippers Belito, excuse me. Community Policing Forum, Hans and I were talking about that driving here. Unfortunately, at this stage, it's still a captured organization, to take the media terms. And we're not managing to play a big part there, but that's certainly on our radar that we want to get more involved with the Community Policing Forum. In the meantime, we make do without. The Dolphin Coast Conservancy, I don't know if Di Jones is here, but we have regular contact with Di and cooperate wherever we can with Di. Ilembe Business Chamber, Brian and I have quite frequent meetings with Kobus Wilofse from the Business Chamber. We share ideas and play to one another's strengths. Obviously, they represent a different audience than we do. Then we established last year the Dukuza Organized Ratepayers Association, when we decided that that will give us more clout. So currently we have both Blythedale and Zinkwazi Residents and Ratepayers Associations aligned in an alliance with DOCRRA, and we have a shared WhatsApp, and we meet 2 or 3 times a year, and when there are common issues that we can share and discuss, we do so. It's amazing what you learn from one another. Then obviously the Dukuza Municipality, I think they will be flattered to know that they're partners or alliances, but let's call them an organization that we interact with a lot. And the reason I've put them there is that eventually after the election, the municipality is then forced, or the new councillors have to elect their own ward committees, and there was a hiatus with lots of resignations from the various ward committees in the past. Then we had COVID, so there were no elections, and they were hopping along with 2 or 3 people in the various ward committees. So along came the election, and DOCRRA got itself registered as a representative stakeholder, and therefore we automatically qualified for a seat each on each of the ward committees. So I'm pleased to report that we are represented as an organisation. I'm the ward committee member for Ward 22, Flip's the ward committee member for Ward 6, and Gabby is the ward committee member for Ward 30. So that covers our 3 wards. Over and above that, we've got a number of other ward committee members, Don, Penny, who else? Hunt, that is serving on the various ward committees. And the ward committees gives us a different clout and gives us a different angle and access to the councillors, and then also access to activities at the municipality. So through our ward councillors and our ward committees, having those relationships, we actually managed to get an agenda before the meeting, or the council meeting. So that's obviously one of the benefits. There are many others. A while back I was approached by a group in Pietermaritzburg, the Mzunduzi municipality. I don't know if you know that that municipality is now 2nd time that it's gone under administration. So things are going very worse there. And if you think that that's the seat of provincial government in KZN, and they have 18 residents and ratepayers associations that they've put under an organisation called MARC, M-A-R-R-C. Can't tell you exactly now. Mzunduzi Association of Resident and Ratepayers Committees. So they have 18, and they then started affiliating with the Durban crowd. They then contacted us. So currently we have a communication group that's very active, at least 20 messages a day, between Pietermaritzburg, Durban, Tongaat, Durban North, ourselves, and Quorum. So the Residents and Ratepayers Associations are starting to form an alliance and are starting to work with one another. Our hearts go out for our colleagues in Durban who don't have water and are struggling with their water rationing, and especially in Tongaat as well. So we can hear what goes wrong and what goes right in other areas. We support one another, give one another ideas and so on. So I think that that organisation is going to grow quite big and quite strong. We have our alliances with lots of member estates. Our member estates obviously have to negotiate things on their own for themselves. We try and assist them and collaborate with them. So that's definitely, we see our alliance partners are our member estates. We're also quite involved with the organisation Undoing Tax Abuse, OUTA. As you may know, that's the organisation that started fighting the toll roads. They then expanded. They're probably about 200 people strong now at head office. They've got a strong legal department. And they've recently started a new platform to assist civic organisations called CAN, C-A-N, which stands for Community Activation Networks. So they are supporting the establishment of local residents and ratepayers communities, and we are very involved. We also get a lot of free assistance from them, from their advocates, their lawyers, their financial guys. So we really cherish that relationship. Provincial government's a bit like Community Policing Forum, is an organisation that we write to and they never write back, and we don't hear from them. So we definitely have to still fix that relationship or try and establish a contact there. I know Brian is busy doing it, seeing who we can talk to through Kobus at their Lembe chamber. So hopefully we will find somebody there that we could talk to. And then we've got the Saltrock Neighbourhood Watch Hunts. Sunroll, definitely involved in our radar. Whenever the traffic lights go out, it's amazing. Just that Tiffany's intersection, if you want to do anything with traffic lights or the roads or any complaints there, you've got to talk to 3 levels of government. You've got to talk to Sunroll, you've got to talk to provincial government, and you've got to talk to local government. And Sunroll were the guys that have now opened up the toll gates. They had to, because there are no alternative routes, because they got washed away. And then the South African Police Service, SAPS, or our Mhlali Police Office. So those are the various organizations or structures that we interact with and coordinate with. We don't just try and do it on our own. Current estate memberships, this is just a bit of a brag page, just to show which estates are involved. It grew quite a lot over the last years. We're also very pleased that I think it's another month, and then there's the AGM at Princess Grant, and they've already given us an indication that they want to join us. So they've confirmed from a committee point of view, so we're delighted about that. And we've got a meeting with Palm Lakes yet again. Hopefully we can get them to join us as well, and that will be a great help. Thank you. I would like to introduce a new way of looking at what we do at DOCRRA, and you'll see the word upstream. So we try to differentiate between the two kinds of initiatives that we have. The upstream things means that what's happening at the Dukuza municipality, what's happening in the council, what are the issues there, and how do we address that? And we would like to highlight all the different things, because if we don't sort out the municipality, then we're not going to get potholes fixed. We're not going to get streetlights sorted out. We have to work at that level as well, and we'll touch on that. But our main focus is how do we interact with the Dukuza municipality directly in their management structure and organization. So the first one I want to mention is financial analysis and all the various comments and recommendations. So with our committee and our finance committee and Brian leading that, there's not a financial event that happens at the Dukuza municipality without the DOCRRA involvement. We're not taken seriously enough yet, but they definitely know about it. So whenever there's a meeting, we're there with our questions, with our suggestions, whether that's a stakeholder meeting taking place at the library, or whether that's a meeting at the school, whether that's a meeting on Zoom, we're totally involved. And Brian will probably touch on, we're going to give you some breaking news financial analysis of what our challenges is on the finances in a minute, but that is a very big focus that we work on. We're also working closely with some of our councillors, sharing of information, sharing of questions. We don't get an opportunity to speak at the council meetings. We can only sit against the wall and listen, but nobody says that we can't ask questions through our councillors. So we give questions to our councillors and we get answers that way. Rates and taxes, as you know, last year was a big property revaluation. The average increase was about 31% in property valuations. We were talking about the high demand for this part of the world and so on. So there was a 31% increase in valuations. We're very pleased that we managed to get a 25% rebate on that. So if you look at your rates count, you will see that you're valued at that. This is the charge. There's your rebate at 25%. The big trick is for us to see that over the next 4 or 5 years, we maintain that 25% rebate and keep that as low. We don't want to lose that. And just talking about rebates, just to remind everybody that in Dukuza we've got one of the best rebate structures for retired folk or pensioners. So over 60, 65 and 70, you can go and apply. And the unique thing about ours is that you don't have to pass a means test to qualify for those rebates. And I think over 70, it's something as high as 30%. 35. So please don't ignore that.
We tried very, very hard to avoid getting a rebate. We tried to get the municipality to revalue the rate amount. At the last municipal valuation, they actually did that. They, your rates had gone up, they did the revaluation, and the rateable amount dropped by the average of the increase. So the rate dropped by that amount. The benefit of that is it sets you on a low base. The municipality, in this instance, opted to keep the rate amount at the same, but to offer the rebate, which does equal the average increase in valuation. On the face of it is very fair, but at the next budget, they can do two things. They can increase the rate and decrease the rebate, which would have the impact of a double increase. And no doubt if they did that, they would publicize heavily how small their rate increase would be. but we would be hit hard in our pockets. We're not going to let that one go, and we are going to watch that very carefully, because we're not going to let them double dip.
Thanks, Deon. Yes, and also if you talk about the Siza water increase, there's also something looming there. But we've got our eyes on it, and you will hear us kicking and screaming. Attending all stakeholder meetings, whether you get 1 day notice and it's at 6 o'clock and it only starts at 7, and it's at the library, we're there. And we attend those meetings, and we use the platform that we've got. I don't think that there's a councillor or a senior executive at Dukuza that doesn't know who DOCRRA is. We're there all the time. Attending council meetings is a new thing. Brian taught me that, and we now try and attend. There's once a month, there's a council meeting that the public is allowed to attend, and we are not allowed to speak or ask questions or anything like that, but we attend that. It's very interesting to watch what happens there, and I'll touch on that just now, but yes, we're at those council meetings. Just to give you an indication, and I know that we've got a councillor sitting at the back there, a new councillor, the volume of documents, guys. A council meeting is 800 pages, the board pack, or 900 pages, and subcommittees, Stephanie, 400 pages, and you're given a week to work it through. It's a lot of fun. And then, as I mentioned, the various ward committees. So on the upstream activities, this is probably our largest focus. And I can tell you that we're probably the only organization, we're blessed with a lot of civic organizations around, we're the only organization that's there, that's in those spaces and asking the questions and putting forward suggestions and sending frequent emails and so on. So it is starting to bear fruit, and I will touch on that a little bit later. I'm going to now hand over to Stephan, who has been working on three specific projects for us, just to give us a quick rundown on what those projects are about. Stephan, you moet so omloop.
Thank you, Deon. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're busy with 3 initiatives at the moment, and I just want to give you feedback on all 3 of them. The first one being Siza Water. I don't know if you are aware of the fact that Siza Water is an outsourced water management company, and Ilembe District Municipality engaged them in January 1999 and signed a 30-year lease agreement with them, and that lease expires now in 2029 and to be renegotiated in 2028. So we did some homework on whether Siza Water is really worth keeping and their service levels, and it's quite interesting what came out of that research. We actually paying less than our eThekwini neighbors for water because Siza manages our water supply, and I think you all can vouch for the fact that the problems we had now after the storms, just quickly our water supply was reconnected, and the service that we got from Siza Water. So DOCRRA is going to try everything in its best to get or to get Siza Water to be reappointed as the service provider. And we will keep all our ears and eyes on the ground to find out what's happening. The report is available on our website, so it makes some interesting reading. The second initiative is the electrical department. I'm sure you are all aware of the electricity problems we have here. And we did an investigation on Mr. Jolly, the head of the department of the electrical engineering, or the director of the electrical engineering department. And it was also a very interesting exercise. What came clear out of this investigation is that it's not only the electrical engineering department, but all of Dukuza municipality, and I think it's in all South African municipalities the same story. We've got a huge problem with performance management and consequences of poor performance. So we're still busy with that research. The report is finished, but we still battle to get some information on the electrical projects budgeted versus actual spent, because you will be surprised on, I don't know if whom of you attended the Imbizo at Mshlali Primary School when they presented the IDP plan. There's huge amounts of money budgeted for electrical projects, but what they spend in per annum is actually frightening. Then the third one is a project that I also think affects all of us every day, especially the mums that need to drive their children to school, and that's the traffic congestion at the different areas, or in the different areas we have. Ilembe Chamber and Ashton School initiated this project in 2017, but I don't know why it died and nothing happened, to appoint pointsmen at the different areas in the where the traffic congestion are. So we've picked up the strings, and we're going to let this project come alive again. And there's a business plan that we've developed, business case, and the budget that we've developed. So our next action or plan is now to have a meeting with Dukuza Municipality and basically have a joint public-private partnership agreement with them, so that we can try and see if we can get this thing running. So that's all. Any questions? Nothing. Thank you.
Stephan, thanks very much. I also just want to add there, the Traffic Pointsman Initiative in principle has been agreed to by the municipality, so it's not something new. So that they've agreed to. What we're doing now is we putting a business case together on how we would like to cooperate with them. The big trick is, and the difference between the outsurance ones is, outsurance, for example, employed those traffic pointsmen, and it became a problem when the second and third year they renew the contracts, because then those people could argue it's a permanent employment. So it became a labor law issue. And what we're doing now is the municipality will employ them, we will help fund their training, and we will have first right of refusal where to deploy them and at what cost. So if we say we want them at this intersection or that intersection, we don't need them now or whatever. And I think that that's a very creative angle that Stephan's working on, and we have cleared that in principle as well, and Hans attended some meetings with us as well. So hopefully we can launch that. It's not going to be a quick fix, it's going to take a couple of months, but I think once we've got that solution, it's going to be very helpful. And then just one other thing that Stephan's busy with us. Yes, Kevin. Sure.
What function does the Dukuza traffic department play in this whole process? We have a traffic department that we pay for. They don't seem to appear when the traffic lights are out. Is there any chance of getting them to be more involved in this process, other than us having to dig in our pockets and pay for pointsmen?
Yes, we've investigated that. There are 22 Metro Police that are employed for what they call the south of Dukuza. So south of Dukuza, you can really argue, is from Tinley Manor to the side. So there are 22. Remember that they've got to cover 3 shifts, so it's not just one shift. So in theory, they have 5 people per shift. Now obviously they don't work through the night. So their issue is that they can assist in the mornings, and that's why they're at Ashton, and that's why they're at the Bredenwood intersection. Well, good weather permitting. If it's raining, it's a bit of a problem. But they are there most of the time in the mornings. Your issue is in the afternoon. It's during the midday. It's when Ashton, when everybody comes out at that intersection. And that is where they have the shortage of staff. And they're also looking at a cheaper solution. Those Metro Police are costing them quite a lot of money. So we're looking at a law enforcement category, much less training, much quicker to deploy, lower salary level. And it's an initiative that's working very well in the Western Cape. So we've taken the Western Cape, so it's where municipalities are starting to strengthen their own police activity. And these people will be particularly trained to enforce bylaws, you'll be pleased to hear. So their authority would be bylaws. So if they can do the traffic, and then when they're not doing the traffic, they can go and do hawkers or beaches and enforce bylaws. So that's the idea. So it's assisting the municipality to form a new level or category of bylaw enforcement. And they're starting to talk about 20 at the first training. I hope that helps, Ken.
Thank you.
Hazelmere. All of you know Hazelmere Dam, and there's been a lot of work at that Hazelmere Dam. About 3 or 4 years ago, they decided to increase the height of the dam by 7 meters. That would double the capacity of that dam. They managed to get to about 4 meters, and then the engineers said no, they didn't need different piling and pylons and whatever. The government didn't have the 55 million at the time. So 3 years later, at 180 million, they've now done the last 4 meters. So that has just been completed, and we believe that it is, from a concrete and civil engineering point of view, it's already won a couple of awards internationally. It's a big kept secret, because they're going to do a big unveil and so on. But after the last storms, the dam's full. I have it on fairly good authority that if it doesn't rain for the next 4 years, in Belita we will still have water coming out of Hazelmere Dam. So count our blessings. We've got Hazelmere Dam that gives us 90% of our water. We must just have electricity now to purify the water, which is where the challenge lies. And then we need to keep Siza water too going through. We're going to do a site inspection. Stephan's managed to find us an angle that we can take 5 people, and we're hoping to do a site inspection by middle of August. So that's Hazelmere Dam. So that really tackles the electricity issue, which we think is a very critical issue, a traffic issue, and a water issue all in one. Once again, we're talking about upstream stuff. It's not stuff that affects us immediately on day to day. Then further upstream is the IDP, the Integrated Development Plan. Just to give you a quick overview, Integrated Development Plan gets established with every new council for the next 5 years. And it's really the wish list of what do we want in the greater Dukuza area: high schools, roads, police stations, all of the good stuff and all of the big visions. And from that IDP, they draw down the budget every year. So it's very important that we get insight in the IDP. That IDP, I know it's in draft form, and we are going to be representing your interest on the IDP representative forum. We'll send out information about it to get your input as well. Then there was a master traffic plan, another initiative that Ken worked very hard on for us last year. A couple of developers got together, especially shopping centres, and as you know, there is a master plan to extend the M4 from Ashton past Viljoen, alongside the N2, underneath the BT, through Orchard, Lychee Orchard, and then to link up to the Flag Farm Road that is going to go all the way to the highway. And that is to relieve the traffic congestion on the N2. I'm not sure, I plan to live for long, but I'm not sure I'm going to be around when they open it and they cut the ribbon. But it's definitely on the plan. And then there are lots of other arterial roads coming off it. I can say that there's a bunch of developers that are now quite far down the line, and they're funding the development or the tarring of the Flag Farm Road, and that we will have an on and an off ramp at that far bridge, Flag Farm Road, going over the N2, and that'll probably be in the next 3 years. The environmental impact at the moment, there's a swamp that's in the way, and I didn't know you can do that, but there's a swamp relocation concept happening. So once that's been approved, then, or what they call a swamp offset, once that has been developed, then hopefully they can carry on with that development. But that's been approved. So I think the first road development of that master plan, Ken, that we're going to see is the Flag Farm Road tarring and the on and off ramp at that other bridge. Ken put in a lot of suggestions at the time, and that has resulted in a further research, because they forgot about pedestrian walkways, just to mention one, and a number of other issues which we've highlighted. So that is being investigated, and we will keep our eye, and that's part of the IDP. EMPAC, I've mentioned Brian, and when Brian comes and talks just now, he's got a few slides. Brian, will you just touch on EMPAC then you don't have to come up right now. So please remember that. Our big issue at our municipality is what you see on the board. The current status and control at the council, I'm going to touch on that, but performance management and consequence management, if we can get those two things right. Please remember that our municipality, recently won the award for the most financially sustainable municipality in KZN. It also is ranked 3rd in South Africa. And what that means is that they've got a lot of cash. They've got sufficient cash. And we know the cash is in the bank because the Auditor General confirms that. And we can see what interest they're getting, so we know that that is so the cash has not gone walkabout. It is definitely there. And at the moment, Brian's going to touch on how much that cash is. So our big issue is, how do you take the cash that you've got and deploy it in a way that we can get improved service delivery? And to do that, we have to work at performance management and consequence management. At my last meeting at the council, I was astounded at the speaker, Dolly Governor, taking on the municipal manager, Tlantlam Dakani, in a public forum, lambasting him for the slow progress on performance management and consequence management. And I think the ANC, the ruling party, and certainly the officials realize that these are the two critical issues that is facing our municipality, and we'll be able to increase service delivery the minute. And Stephan has touched on that as well, and I'm sure Brian's going to touch on that. The current status in the council is very different to last year after the elections. I can say to you, because I sit there and Brian sits there and we look at it, there's the ruling party on the one side, and there's a word passage, and then there's the opposition on the other side. All the noise is coming from the opposition side. All the questions are coming from there. All the difficult questions are coming from there. On 2 or 3 occasions where there's had to be a vote on critical issues, all the opposition parties stood together. Can you try and imagine that? Red overalls, green overalls, blue overalls, all standing together. There's a gentleman from the Independent Alliance, Ibrahim Kulia, who takes no nonsense. So, and asks questions, and has a good financial brain, and he serves on EMPAC as well. So what's happening at the council is very different. You can see that the officialdom are struggling to cope with it. The opposition parties are struggling to cope with it. They're not used to this. They're used to having a 2/3 majority. They now, before a vote, you see the telephones come out and they quickly count how many councillors are there, and they've got to go and get another one. They'll go fetch him because he's got to come and vote, otherwise they're going to lose the vote because it is that close. So I, sitting on the outside, and I'm sure for the councillors it's very frustrating, but sitting on the outside, I'm feeling a lot better about that balance. And I'm sure that this is the last time that that's going to happen. And when we get to another municipal election, that balance is going to be on the other side. But that we're definitely going to have coalitions going forward is without a doubt. So those are our big issues that we're working on. We can announce that there is a special committee set up to ensure that performance management is going to happen, and that the audit committees, both internal and external, have been tasked to ensure that consequence management should happen. The issue is that those two things happen at junior level. You can't steal a tea bag and get away with it. If you're the tea lady, you're going to get on a disciplinary committee. But if you're boss of that department, you can steal $1 million and nobody will know about it. So it's, they do implement performance management and consequence management, but not at the right level. So we now need to get that to go to every possible level. Then Trevor joined us when we had the informal settlement developing opposite Caledon Estate, Brooklyn Estate, Mshlali, as you all know, there where all the hawkers are and the businesses are. If you just have a look on the inside there, there's an estate that grew from 0 to yarrow in under about a year. So Penny, you know, it's what, 400 or 500 households there. Trevor, you will know as well. So it's grown very rapidly, and that's a big concern. Obviously, there's it is on Dukuza land, and we got involved with that. We now know that they've all been given notice. We like to believe that we played a leading role in that because we wrote many letters and we had a number of meetings with the various councillors. And we've also learned that there's a charity organization out of the Netherlands that gives the Informal Dwellers Association a lot of money to fight back. So we're not just facing informal settlement, we're actually facing up to very well-paid lawyers when the Quorum Municipality gets a legal act together. And that is happening throughout the country, and it's happening at Tafeni as well, which is quite close to Zululami and Ilaleni. So that's a current initiative that we're currently working on, is to see how we can mitigate that if we can't just get it away altogether. I do know that it is a very hot topic and that there's a dedicated council meeting that had to be cancelled once, but hopefully it will happen, to discuss the 11 informal settlements that are in Dukuza and how to address that. The biggest issue is whenever they get a court order, the court order says you have to relocate those people and you have to find a place to relocate them. There is rumor that they have found a destination where to relocate them. There's just a lot of argy-bargy around that, so hopefully we'll get some news on that. I've mentioned the Residents and Ratepayers Association of KZN. That's also an Upstream. I've mentioned Quorum, I've mentioned OUTA. So that concludes our Upstream initiatives. Now we get to our Downstream initiatives. And it's very important to remember, when we get to Downstream, we work very closely with our ward councillors. And we're very blessed with, certainly at our 3 wards, that we have 3 very active, well-experienced ward councillors. Well, one of them is not that experienced, but he's doing a great job. So we work very closely with them. So it is things such as streetlights and potholes and whatever has to, yes, by all means comes to us, and we will coordinate with our ward councillors. And that's why we're now sitting on all of those wards, so that we can drive those issues to those wards. And they were invited to the meeting tonight. That is a critical way to address the downstream issues. So that'll be streetlights, that'll be traffic lights that go out, that'll be roads and potholes. You can see there's a lot more sporadic activity around pothole fixing. And certainly now the Bretonwood Road again has been repaired, and we see pictures, we share pictures, it's such a highlight. Or when Hans sees a cherry picker up a street pole fixing a light, we share it and we celebrate it. Verges and waste is a big issue. The Dolphin Coast Outreach we're going to touch on a little bit later. That's our charity initiative. And then another downstream issue is our communications. One of the biggest challenges of a Residents and Ratepayers Association is how do we communicate and how do we get all the information out. So we have a website that we're very proud of. So please, if you haven't got to have a look at it, please go and skim past there. Important documents we download from the municipality when we can get it before they hide it, and then we come and host it on our website so that we know that it's there. So annual financial reports or budgets or all of those kind of documents, bylaws, you can find on our website. Then we do 2 to 3 blogs. Our target is more, but we managed to do 2 to 3 already every week. We touch on things of interest, important issues that we're busy with. So if you haven't seen us on Facebook, please go and have a look. Instagram, Twitter, our various WhatsApp groups that we have, or then Charles is from Radio Life and Style, is a good ally of ours. He was also a former chairman of DOCRRA. So whenever we phone Charles and we want some airtime to share something with you, then Charles is always there, and we work closely with the courier as well. So recently we started with events. You may have seen that we've got a nice flag. We've got a gazebo which didn't fit. We had to take it down. But we do some events, and we were at the, after the storm event, Gabby organized that for us, and it was very successful for us. Gabby, thank you. If we can be at the Christmas fair as well, we will be there. We go and stand and spiel tambola. Member queries, that's ongoing all the time. We get lots of our members phoning us up with issues around the municipality. Who do I speak to about this? What can I do about that? And there we thank Stephanie for handling the bulk of those. And then our membership benefits card. If you haven't got a membership benefits card, please come and register with Stephanie, get a membership benefits card. We now have, Steph, Mary, 20 organizations, maybe 25, that is offering special deals and discounts to our members. They're all local organizations, so we try to keep it local. So for those discounts at restaurants and at takeaway shops and anything else, please go and have a look at the list on our website and our on the website, and please come and register for the membership cards. So there I've tried to differentiate between the stuff that we do at a higher level and the stuff that we have to get involved with and who our partners are that we work at ground level. Brian, over to you to come and share some financial issues. We're getting close to the end, ladies and gents. Hang in there.
Thanks, Deon. Deon asked me to firstly talk about EMPAC. So EMPAC is a subcommittee of council. The role of EMPAC is to monitor and oversight of the Municipal Public Accounts Committee.
Working well.
Municipal Public Accounts Committee. With a balance of power, that committee has changed from 5 to 10 councillors in the new 2021-2022 year. I attended the only place where we can get directly involved is in the oversight and review of the annual report. So I was involved in the 2020 annual report, so that would have been early in the 2021 year, where it had 5 ANC councillors who didn't ask questions, didn't say boo. Except for our questions, the meetings would have been over within 15 minutes. They would have done, dusted, and approved the financial statements. I mean, they didn't pick up spelling mistakes and the like. So that's changed a little bit. So we had as Deon says, if you look at the back of the annual report, which you'll find on our website and certainly on their website, it contains all of the impact minutes, agendas, questions asked, responses given, and the like. We did that again for 2021, and now has 10 members. Balance of power shifted a little bit, 5 and 5. And as Deon said, it's got Abraham Collier there that asks a lot of tough questions and makes them sweat with responses and the like. So that's the only public exposure we have to EMPAC. Its main role is to look after unauthorised, irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure. And sadly, they haven't agreed on a chairman for the current period. So while it's got 10 members, the parties can't agree with the chairperson. They haven't met for the last number of months. So all the URFW expenditure, of which there's quite a substantial sum, probably over 150 million rand, as at the end of June 2021, that they haven't investigated. And there's recurring numbers every month. There's a ProSecure contract of about 2.5 million rand a month that is on unauthorised expenditure that doesn't get investigated. Sadly, all of that stuff doesn't get looked at. So we hope it functions, it gets its chairman in place, which I think has now been done, and the committee starts meeting and investigating, and then consequence starts happening because of this. I thought I'll just touch on some of the highlights, or lowlights, whichever way you will, but financially we have a strong council, we have a strong municipality. As Deon said, probably rated 3rd best in the country, financially sound, and I'll give you some numbers. I don't know that these are on the website, but if anybody's interested in them, they can get them through Stephanie. Certainly they will be available through her. But the red numbers are the budget numbers, the blue numbers are the actual numbers. This is on the expenditure side, to the operational expenditure. You'll see that every year they budget for a fairly high expenditure and don't make it. Probably spending around 85 to 90% of their budget. That's good. For those of you that run companies or do currently run companies, if you budget 100 and you only spend 90, you'd be quite happy with that. Except that on the downside of that is, where's page down, the minus button?
Just arrow forward.
The downside of that is they've got to balance their budget. So if they're going to spend 100, they've got to collect 100. You'll see that in each of those lines, the red line exceeds the blue line. So it means they've taken money from your pocket and stuck it into their pocket because that's what they've got to do, which leads to a whole lot of surpluses. So it's good again. If you were running your business and you budgeted for 100 revenue and and you collected 105, you'd be happy with that. You'd have a 15 Rand or so surplus, you'd put in the bank and start again next year. But as I said, that then leads to your money being in their pocket, and that's scary. Thankfully, for now, it stayed in their pocket. It hasn't gone anywhere else. It doesn't seem to have been abused or misused, and certainly we keep our eye on that. But that's the surpluses that they budgeted, the little red numbers, and the surpluses that they have. I attended the April meeting where they did the third quarterly report, so up to the end of March. The surplus at the end of March was about 106 million. They budgeted, I think, a small little surplus for 2022, 4.8 million. I'm not sure they're going to lose 106 million Rand in 3 months, but hopefully they don't, but I'm not sure they're going to do. But that's the downside of the fact that they don't have the capacity to spend the money. Sorry, Deon?
This is part of the big fight that we had in terms of the increases that they were proposing. And we proposed to them, they gave us 0 increase because they hadn't actually spent money. The argument they gave us is that they cannot budget a loss. We in fact asked them to budget a loss, because they keep putting money into reserves. Sorry. Putting money into reserves, they keep taking out of our pockets, and they're not spending it. And as Brian says, it's not going to their pocket, but going into reserves doesn't help us as ratepayers.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't help us. And then, because we know this trend, certainly when we had the debate about the 2023 budget, where they put our rates up at 5%, we know that they're going to over-collect on rates and other revenue again, underspend, and therefore going to sit with more of our money in their pocket. That's the more scary one. This is electricity surpluses. So the council incurs about 20 million Rand a month in electricity losses. Malcolm knows this number well, he's researched it as well. 20 million Rand a month. They buy power from Eskom, they lose it through illegal connections, non-billings, non-collections, the whole 2D, and 240 million Rand will be the number at the end of this year. That's about 25% of their purchases. Richards Bay up the road loses 6%, which is about, I think the norm for municipalities around the country would be around 10. Richards Bay is at 6%. So you're going to ask any businessman, if I gave you 5 million Rand a month to cut electricity losses of 20 million Rand a month, is that a good scenario? If that 5 million Rand a month covered 500 security guards, if that's what it took to go and take away illegal connections, cover substations, cable theft, and the whole lot. I mean, for you and me, that'll make sense. So this is one of the issues that we're going to tackle them on, because there's been no consequence of this, as Stephan will point out in his dossier in due course. Nothing has happened to the ED or any of the other EDs due to mismanagement over the last 3, 4, 5 years. So they budget a small surplus for 2022, a larger surplus for 2023, which is good, which means that maybe they are going to take some action. Let's hope and see. We'll see what the 2022 numbers look like in due course.
Sorry, can I just ask you a question? Are you telling me that they under-recover 20 million Rand a month?
20 million Rand a month.
Just on electricity.
From 500.
They pay Eskom, call it 74, and they recover 54.
And how do they fund that?
Your and my rates.
Okay, but I thought the electrical setup had a surplus in there.
It does have a little surplus, but remember there's other costs for so this is just what they buy and sell from Eskom. Yeah. Electricity has other costs, maintenance costs and the like, that they need to cover as well. So as I said, they make surpluses and the money does sit in the bank. At the end of 2021, they got nearly R1 billion of money in the bank, which is money obviously that they need to pay. They need to pay the Eskom bill the next month and the like, but at least it's in the bank. So if you correlate the surpluses with the increase in cash balances, that's a good trend, and that's why our municipality is certainly considered financially stable. On service delivery performance, that's just the overall result for the last 3 years. Sorry, that's just on service delivery, not the overall. 30, 37, 48, so a slight increase. That does get audited by the Auditor General, but there's findings on that because they don't provide the information. So its accuracy thereof is taken with a pinch of salt, and that's the overall performance. Obviously during 2020 they saw a lot of non-performance because of COVID as part of the reason, but it's at 68%. I don't know if you and I would get a bonus if we performed at 68%. Or re-employed, yeah. So that's just the highlight of some of the financial numbers. Obviously when we look at things financially, it's done for the whole of KDM, because if they increase the rates, yes, it affects you and me here in the Dolphin Coast, but it also affects Tinley Manor, Blythedale, and all the other residents in Stanger and Dukuza. So we do this as a community project for the whole of KDM, and certainly involve our Quorum alliance partners when we need their input or help them with their input. Yeah. I don't know if there's any questions on financials. Not the most exciting topic in the world, but happy to have a chat about it afterwards.
Right, thank you very much. And thank you for all the work that you do on those. When you get one of those budgets, they're 400 pages. There's only really 40 that's relevant, but you've got to look for them. And once you can get them, and then you've got to start working on them. I think some of our concern is this 20 million loss that we're talking about, which is illegal connections largely. It's about 90% of that's illegal connections. If we can't fix that, then their buying and selling of electricity is not going to make the kind of surplus. 3 years ago, just if you go back on the graph, they made about 250 million surplus. Now they're getting down to under 100 million surplus and to the 80 or 90 million. Now imagine if that gets to a flat. Where do they get the difference of the 250 that they had in the budget? That's where the pressure, as Deon Richard mentioned and Brian has mentioned, is going to get onto the rates and taxes. So they're going to have to get it from somewhere, either there or they're going to increase the electricity costs. So we're seeing a problem down the line that is coming, and that's why we're doing these kind of analyses, and that's why we're challenging them on over-budgeting, underspending, and creating surpluses. And then they sit with a service delivery of around 40% or 48%. And that is why, is because the money that they budgeted to spend, that we have paid, is sitting there. And then the other reason that we financially viable municipality is that we're collecting, what, 95%? So of all of our outstanding, now remember the South African average is sitting at the low 60s for all 247 municipalities in the country. Talking about collection rates is sitting at the low 60s. There's some municipalities sitting at 30%. We're sitting at 95. So we are way up there as far as collecting the money and giving them the money to spend. Our issue is performance management, consequence management, spend the bucks, give us services. So that's our main focus.
Yeah.
Yes, Brian.
Yeah. Just one thing with that Eskom charge. Eskom's charge is about R125. We're paying R235, I think. So when a municipality builds electricity, you are paying a lot more than the cost price from Eskom. And obviously, part of that should go into infrastructure management, although if you're buying it directly from Eskom for R125, they would be maintaining the infrastructure for that. So one can ask the question, well, many questions to that. But I mean, it really is, you know, with them, Deon asked, how do they recover it if they don't sort of stop that loss? Do they keep putting that price up? Can you afford more electricity costs? And that really is why it's a, you know, a feature for us to look at. It really is, you know, that hurts our bottom line, our pockets.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Can I just
yes, Flip.
mention something? When we hear of illegal electricity usage, so this will be quick. When we hear of illegal electricity, we must probably think of the informal settlements. I'm a little bit involved with the council and the electricity, and I want to tell you that there's a big problem with businesses who disconnect their meters or bypass their meters. Businesses, as in
serious businesses.
So don't think just about that, and keep our eyes and ears open. And report it via DOCRRA. We will make sure that it gets sorted. Thanks.
Question. Okay.
Yes, Ken.
Is there any thought or any discussion or any proposal to encourage residents to produce their own electricity and feed it back into the grid. I mean, it happens all over the world, apart from us. Is there any discussion within KDM on this basis?
Council is looking at.
Yes, there's a lot of activity happening in that space, Ken. But there's also a lot of barriers, so it's not going to happen very quickly. And you would have seen articles recently in the news that you're going to be charged a base rate in any event and things like that. So yes, there is a lot of discussion around that on how they're going to do that. Penny first, and then I've got a gent in the back.
I just wanted to answer to Ken. Ken, I covered that a lot because I also thought that it would be a practical solution, but you must remember that the main revenue stream for KDM is through electricity and water. So if you're supplying them, you're basically taking away their revenue stream. So that's why they're very protective about taking us off the grid, because they lose the income from the ratepayers.
That R1. They want
maybe that's why they're building that level down, that they're not making a lot of profit on the electricity anymore, so that doesn't hurt them that much. Yes, sir.
Very correlates on that. They pay for what they use, what we use. So in other words, municipalities pay estimate for what we use. So if we're not using electricity, we're not paying that. So that's just to answer your little thing there. And then also the gentleman there had a question about, is it possible? Yes, NERSA actually approved the tariff. It's in the KDM booklet, tariff booklet, that allows people to apply for and feedback into the grid. And KDM tapping it to green. But KDM have still got to make it possible, but it is approved by NERSA that allow you to feedback into the grid and get paid or subsidized for it.
Thank you very much. I think our big challenge is distribution and transmission. So eventually we're going to have solar panels and wind tunnels and whatever, next 4 or 5 years, generating a lot of electricity. But it's the generators that have not been maintained and the reticulation that's not been maintained. That's our challenge. NERSA indicates that you should spend 6% of your revenue on repairs and maintenance in the electrical environment. Our municipality is spending 2.4, and has been consistently spending 2.4. So you're spending half or less than half of what you should on electricity maintenance. So no wonder we have so many failures on that. Yes, Deon.
Deon, on your last point, that slide that Brian put up there with the surpluses that the municipality incurs is because they just don't spend their maintenance budgets. And that ultimately is part of the cause of all of our outages that we have. And just on another note, in terms of being able to generate own power, etc., CBT applied to take over the infrastructure and maintain it. And the council took one look at it and said, yes, but loss of revenue, not on your life.
There's a number of estates that are working on that initiative, and I think it'll eventually happen, but not for right now. Ladies and gents, if I can move on swiftly. The Dolphin Coast Outreach is our charity arm, our paying it forward arm. I think you will all know about it. We specialize in home-cooked soup, nutritional soup, frozen and yogurt and ice cream tubs and 5-litre tubs. We collect it all over the Dolphin Coast and then we distribute it. So it's our paying it forward arm. It's been operating since September 2020. It did exist before that, but it was then a COVID relief initiative, and the COVID relief initiative at that stage came to an end, and we then took that over. Collecting nutritional homemade soup. We also then started expanding in dry goods, clothes, toys, books are also distributed. The kids in the picture there are wearing school shirts made from recycled, written off linen from one of the hotels that sponsor us with material, and they've got a bunch of seamstresses and they made school shirts out of those. So that is what they're wearing there. We distribute soup largely to 7 charitable communities, ranging from Fraser's and Driefontein in the south to Tembeni, where we've got an orphanage with 105 kids, and Groutville in the north. So we really do spread it much wider than the Dolphin coast, but wherever it's needed. And we do it directly, so there's no middleman involved. We know exactly where it's going, who needs it most, and it's currently, we're doing an average of 2,000 litres of soup per month, which equals around about 8,000 plus meals, and wherever we can add a starch and so on. And I can see some ladies in the audience that are supporting us, so thank you very much for that. And we are very grateful for the support that we get there. So if ever you wanted to know what to do with your recycled goods, or if they fall into any of those categories, please let us know, give us a call. And I've got to give a big shout out to my wife Megan, who couldn't be here tonight, who kicks my butt and keeps us going on this journey. So, and thank you to everybody else supporting as well. Our big breaking news before I get to an item that we slipped, Steph, and that's the election of the committee, so I'll come back to that now. We can't not walk out here without a committee, so that'll be a disaster. Okay, big breaking news is many of you will know of an organization called KDRF, the Quorum Residents Forum. We've told you who Quorum is, and you know who DOCRRA is. So after the last Imbizo, where the municipality took quite a beating from 160 residents complaining about the way that budgets are presented, and it's essentially a show and tell. So what the municipalities become used to is, this is what we've done, have you got questions of clarity? And if we feel like it, we'll answer it. If we don't, we answer a different question that you didn't ask. So those are the problems that we have now. What we have done now is we decided that the letter of the law and the intent of the law is that the municipality has to participate, consult, and engage with stakeholders when they draft those documents, so that we can get input in the drafting, not ask questions of clarity. So the three organizations, we got together and we put together quite a heavy letter that we sent on behalf of all organized residents and ratepayers and stakeholder organizations to the municipality. And this got the attention of the municipality. They really stood up, they phoned us immediately, said they've received this letter. We gave them 2 weeks. We said we won't go to the media with this. We give you 2 weeks to come back to us. And what we need is a genuine initiative on a quarterly basis to meet up and discuss items that we want to put on the agenda. So if we want to put the procurement contract on the agenda and say, why has this not been finalized? Can we have the details of that? Or the Dolphin Coast Waste Management contract? Or the minutes where in the EMPAC meeting a certain project expenditure has been written off. We would like to know about it. We'd like to get a copy of those minutes. So those are the kinds of things that we asked for. It did take them 3 weeks, not 2 weeks, but we got a very comprehensive letter back from them, which meant, and they owned up in the letter, that they had to stop the bus, get all the executive directors together, that they had to consult broadly about it, they had to discuss it with council, and we got a comprehensive letter back. We then wrote them another letter, and breaking news tonight is I'm pleased to advise that they came back to us immediately. They've accepted the very first date we suggested to them. So on the 17th of August of this year, we will have our first meeting with the executive of the Quorum Municipality with an agenda that we decide we want to discuss. And I said to them, I'm going to have my AGM today. Thank you very much. We're having our AGM today, and tomorrow we're going to send them the 4 or 5 items. They then get time to prepare, to get their executive directors that are relevant at that meeting, and we will be strong and ready to go and address those issues. Now, there are so many issues that we will just have to take them piece by piece, because there's no ways that we can take all 25 issues that we raised in our initial letter. So I'm delighted about that. It's taken us a long time to get there, and I think they now understand that we want to be more involved than just the show and tell and the fob off, and I think they realize we're here to stay. So thank you for your support, And thank you to the committee, and I'm delighted that that letter has worked like that. We'll be putting it out publicly, the original letter, their response, our response, and the fact that we've got this meeting happening on our website so that all of you can go and have a look at it, and we'll have a blog. But this is the first time that we actually officially announce that on the 17th of August the first one will take place, and then thereafter it will happen on a quarterly basis. Before I get to appreciation, we have 13, in our constitution we have 13 committee members. It sounds big. We have our meetings every 2 weeks. We do it via a Zoom. It's working very efficiently. Now and then we try and do a face-to-face just to see what everybody still looks like. We have very fortunate that everybody that's sitting on the committee has agreed to stand again. All the people that I've mentioned to you before are standing again. That gives us 12 people on the committee. So there is a vacancy. Is there any nominations from the floor? Anybody that would like to come and join us in the lot of fun that we're having? If you want to think about it, come back to us later. But can I therefore, en masse, propose that all 12 nominees are re-elected to the committee, and they'll keep doing this until they get it right. Ladies, well done. I also have to mention that the other day we were doodling on a piece of paper just to calculate the amount of hours that the committee puts in, and we went at a very paltry consulting rate per hour, and we calculated, we didn't put it past Brian or Deon because they would want to audit it and stuff like that. We really don't want that. But it is somewhere between 1.5 and 2 million rands worth of free time that these 12 people put into the DOCRRA organization per year. So a big shout out to all of our volunteers. Thank you very much. So our appreciation goes to Safety and Security, GBOC, who saved our butts last year during the insurrection, and all of the organizations, including DOCRRA, was involved. They're still very much in the background. So when you get these spook stories about there's going to be an insurrection next week at 12 o'clock, or this is happening, or that's happening, and they get shared, and everybody gets in a toestand, and then it's going to happen on Nelson Mandela Day, or whatever the case is, please know that there is a structure and an organization sitting in the background that is working with informants, taxi associations, bosses, whatever, to ensure that we don't get a surprise and don't get blindsided like we did last time. So my shout out goes to Flip and to Hans and to everybody at GBOC for doing that kind of work. And thank you for putting our mind at ease every now and then when you see that WhatsApps are going a bit haywire, just to calm us all down. Then a big shout out to Siza Water. I think the way that they communicated with us during the floods, the speed with which they fixed it, I mean, the last week has just been a classic example again, where all the electricity failures have failed their various plants, Hazelmere included, Avondale included, the sewage works and whatever, that they'd come back to us and say, guys, we've got a bit of a problem, your pressure is going to be low in these areas for this period of time, but by that time we're going to have it fixed. And lo and behold, it did happen like that. And all you need to do is be on the KZN Residents and Ratepayers Association to see the poor folk in Tongard 90 days now without waters. And a new mafia has now emerged called the tanker mafia. If you think the tow-away cars was a mafia or used steel as a mafia, the new one is tankers. And that is happening in Durban at the moment. They're held to ransom, there's money involved, all kinds of problems. Hazelmere Dam status we've spoken about, and we're chuffed to have that because I don't know about you, but I think water is a bigger crisis than electricity going forward in the longer term. And if we're living in an area where we've got one of 3 municipalities in the country that has got a public-private partnership that supplies their water and manages their processes and systems, there's only 3, maybe 2. 2. There's only 2. We are one of them. That gets our water done by a company that you can approach and that you can negotiate. And then we have a dam that now can give us 4 years of water. We have water security. So you can think what that does to property values going forward. And that's, at the end of the day, what we're about, is to have a comfortable lifestyle and to increase the value of our properties. We have 3 very active ward councillors and many others that are the proportional representation councillors, but at a ward level, we really are blessed that we have them on speed dial, we can get hold of them, we can raise issues, we don't always like what we hear, we don't always get the feedback, but you know what, we can contact them, we know where they are, and they're visible and available. And to me, that is more than I think 90% of the rest of the country can say, maybe 80%. Very special thanks to our DOCRRA members that are there to support us, and then a very special thanks to our committee, my subcommittee, and all of our advisors that give us their time. Thank you. Question time. About any issue, except how fast Paula and my Vespa goes when we go ride. Yes, Ken?
You mentioned the good communication you have with 3 of our ward councillors. I think it's 6, 21 is it, and 30. What about the other ones? What about Ward 4? What about the old Ward 22? And what about 28? Do we have any communication with them? Do we have any cooperation? And the other question is, you haven't mentioned at all the Ilembe District Council. Do you have any communications with them?
No, although we meet them, we bump into them now and then at meetings, at council meetings, at the inauguration of all of our ward committee members. Ilembe was there, they were present, but no, we don't have any direct contact there, plus which you would really only want to have too much contact with them if you're getting your water from Umgeni. And there are areas in Dukuza, but not in the Dolphin coast, that get their water directly from Umgeni, and they obviously also have their challenges. But no, we would like to have that. With Jethro Banda, who is the Shaka's head guy, who's got the many bodyguards, because when he goes to his own ward, they want to shoot him and kill him and things like that. There is some contact through the councillors, because we need his support, and we've now got his support, for the eviction of the informal settlement. Our problem now lies elsewhere, to get the support on where they're going to go. But that's the only contact we have. We've tried to reach out a couple of times, we've tried to make contact, but quite frankly, no. We don't have direct contact with them. And it is something that we've got to keep trying to do.
I mentioned Ilembe because they're the people that are going to determine water in 7 years' time.
Absolutely, and hopefully by then we would have had another municipal election. Hopefully then we'll have a new council, and hopefully then we can get the Siza water contract extended. So sorry, they have given my strategy away of what we're hoping to do, how to get Siza water. But if it's the current council, we won't. Then we won't get that appointed. But if it's a new council after the next election, different coalition, I think we can maybe extend that Siza water contract. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Regarding the informal settlement issue, you say notice has been given. Have you got any indication of the time period of this notice? I'm sure it is a sensitive topic, but did they give you any indication of the time?
No, they didn't. They just said that you're illegal here and that you are going to be evicted. So that was the notice that's gone out. It's largely been ignored. We get drone photographs on how it's growing. So we've got the start until where it is now, and it is growing quite rapidly. So there hasn't been a time set. I think the next big thing is to get council to agree where informal settlement is going to be relocated to, and under what conditions. Is there going to be housing and that kind of thing. Once we get over that hurdle, then a lot of the arguments of this opposing legal initiative will fall away, because their big initiative is that you've got to find alternate housing. There is also a plan to build, because many of these people that are moving here are coming here for work, so they have homes elsewhere. can't have two homes. You can't have a home elsewhere that government's built you and then you get another one here because you want to work here now. So this becomes a more Airbnb kind of concept that you come here to come and work for 3 months or 6 months or whatever. So in that case, they are planning to not build necessarily the RDP houses, but to build the old style apartment blocks. Hostels is not a nice word. Apartment blocks, and where people then can rent for the 3 months or the 1 year that they're working at Zimbali Lakes or whatever the case is, that they can stay there. So that is the current human settlements plan going forward, is how to provide that. But at the moment, the land has to be found. Now, I know Penny is dying to say something.
No, I've answered the question.
I wasn't answered. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Ladies, gents, thank you very much for your patience. Once again, thank you to Zimbitis. Sorry, Ruth.
I just wanted to ask, just as a DOCRRA member, how can we support the DOCRRA committee ongoing? Is it just by reading what the committee's doing, or how can we support what you guys are doing?
It's a very good question. With all of our social media activity, what we're really looking for is your feedback and your input. We enjoy communicating with you. We'd love to share the information, but what is really valuable is if you come back with suggestions, comments, feedback, anything that you would like us to know or that you'd like us to work on, because that is what we rely on, is that feedback and that interaction. And you can do that on various platforms. You can do that at admin@docra.co.za, which goes directly to Stephanie. You can do that on any of our Facebook sites or any of our other forums. We don't have forums where we share conspiracy theories or hate speech or stuff like that. It doesn't work for us. It takes our energy away. So we don't have those forums. But anything that is positive and especially when we put a blog out, let's say on a budget or a traffic plan or what's coming up, IDP. IDP is coming up shortly. If those kind of things come up, please, give us the feedback and help us to change the narrative. The narrative is that we've got a problem, we've got a plan, we're going to help fix it. We're going to work on a solution. We're not going to try and wish it away. It's not going to go away. We've got to get stuck in there and work with it. Mary.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that if you want to help support us, you can please follow us on social media. So don't just have a look, follow us, leave comments, engage with our content, and can you please share it? So we have a DOCRRA WhatsApp group for members. If you're not on it and you want to be on it, contact me or Vanessa or Ruth or Stephanie. If you see something that's being sent to you on that group and you think it should be shared with your estate, with your mom's group, whatever it is, please share it. And likewise for our blogs and all the content that we put on our website, hours and hours of work goes into that. So if you like the information that you're getting, you think it's useful, please share it with your community and the people that matter to you.
Mary, thank you very much for that. Stephanie.
Yeah, I think on behalf of everybody, both the committee and members and non-members, we'd like to thank you for all you've done, because you've put a hell of a lot of effort.
Thank you, Steph, and thank you to all of you. That concludes our meeting, and thank you. We will see you next year this time, hopefully with much better news, or even better news. Thank you.